Good morning and welcome everybody to the latest edition of our CPD webinar series, run for us generously by Sarah Lowe from Ebeni, who is also one of the latest director additions to ARPAS-UK. Sarah Lowe will be talking about fostering safety aviation safety culture. So without further ado, I'll pass on to Sarah and my camera will be off. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, Mohammed. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, where we will look at how we can foster a positive safety culture within the drone industry. We only have about 30 minutes today, and safety culture is such a significant topic, I could spend days talking about it. So today is really an introduction into safety culture. I will discuss what safety culture is and why it is important, not just for players within the aviation ecosystem, but more broadly across different industries. We'll consider the benefits to a positive culture and what industry challenges we may face to developing and enhancing one. We will also look at some steps we could take within the industry to foster a positive safety culture within organisations. The webinar today will build on the theory of safety culture, and given the variety of attendees that are planning to attend, I will aim to provide examples as we go through the brief that correspond to the different sizes and complexities of organisations. While most of the examples today may be operator focused, the narrative applies equally to all industry stakeholders. So, I started out my career within the aviation industry in the Royal Air Force as an air traffic controller. Whilst I was in the military, I also conducted various safety roles, including occurrence investigator and safety manager. When I left the military, I joined a helicopter company as an air safety investigator. I then became responsible for managing the safety management system before finally moving into the safety post holder role. For the last 6 years, I've been working in consultancy, supporting stakeholders, not just in the drone industry, but also traditional aviation, in a variety of disciplines, including safety management, assurance, and airspace activities. And I've been working for Ebeni for the past year. I've developed a real passion for safety culture and human performance through my own lived experiences of working at the delivery end of a safety critical service, being in a position of responsibility to develop and enhance a culture, and also through supporting the establishment of frameworks for clients within the UK and overseas. Ebeni are an independent specialist company of engineering experts in safety, mission, and business critical applications. Our clients include major operators, suppliers, and regulators across a range of sectors, some of which I'm showing on the screen now. I work as part of Ebeni's Future Air Mobility team and utilise cross-sector capabilities such as operational and engineering safety, cybersecurity, regulatory expertise, safety management, design and certification, software assurance, and airspace change to support our customers across the whole drone and advanced air mobility ecosystem, from vision to operation. We're involved in the Future Flight Challenge Project Blueprint, are a co-founder of the National Drone Innovation Gateway, and are providing support to the military in advanced air mobility. So, this is what I intend to cover today. I'm considering safety culture from a variety of perspectives based on different types of organisations. This may be small or large, simple or complex, established or innovative. And one of the key outputs from this webinar is to highlight the importance of establishing the foundations of a safety culture in place in readiness for business change and growth. I also want to highlight these 3 key points. That irrespective of the size and complexity of your company, a positive safety culture within your organisation makes good business sense. Proportionality of safety culture development and enhancement is key, and that you should also future-proof your safety culture foundations to meet your vision and future goals. So, what is safety culture? The term safety culture was first used in an initial report published by the International Atomic Energy Agency in 1986, which documented the organisational and managerial failures that contributed to the Chernobyl disaster. Safety culture refers to the norms, values, beliefs, attitudes, and behaviours related to safety of people within an organisation. It's the way that safety is perceived. It's the way it's valued and prioritised by all levels of a business. It's the way that things are done around here. It isn't something that you can simply buy. It takes an organisation time and effort to develop, maintain, and improve. Safety culture isn't biased. It's in every safety critical organisation, whether small, large, simple, or complex. In essence, safety culture is the way that people behave towards safety when no one is watching. There are a few models that are used by various industries to describe the key elements of safety culture. The one that I'm using today to show you is used widely throughout the aviation industry, and it's Professor James Reason's safety culture model. This is based on 5 core elements, which when combined, form a proactive, safety conscious, informed, and engaged organisation. In a just culture, there is trust and people are encouraged to provide safety-related information. They are also clear about what is acceptable and unacceptable behaviour. A reporting culture is where people have confidence to report any safety concerns without any fear of blame, and they know that action will be taken to mitigate against future issues. An informed culture is one where people have knowledge about the functional system that they manage and operate, and people within the organisation should also be encouraged to ask questions such as why, what if, and challenge things they do not believe are correct, rather than just accepting assumptions. A learning culture is where you learn from mistakes as a business and can adapt as necessary. It will also ensure that people understand the processes at a personal level. Learning, followed by communication, is a central part to a positive safety culture. A flexible culture is one where the organisation and the people in it can adapt effectively to meet changing demands. It is important to note that there are interrelationships between the elements. For example, an informed culture must rely on a good reporting culture, which in turn depends upon a just culture, i.e., you cannot know and understand your risks and communicate that effectively to staff without having a good reporting culture which helps you to identify potential hazards. You will only have an effective reporting culture if you have trust within your organisation and that people will be treated fairly. Not only must the interrelationship between these elements be considered, but the role of management in establishing the policies, procedures, and tools to foster these elements and commit to their success is equally as important. Leadership and management behaviours and commitment to a positive safety culture plays a significant role. So attendees may be watching this and wondering how it's relevant to them. You may run your own business as a sole trader or a small company. Proportionality is key to this, and we'll come on to proportionate actions later. But irrespective of the size and complexity of your organisation, without having trust or reporting hazards and occurrences and mitigating against future issues, without ensuring that you and or your team have the necessary tools, which include things like training, procedures, equipment, and experience, your safety culture may not be optimised, and your business may have unknown and unmitigated risks. So how does this fit into your organisation? So most organisations will operate under a continuous improvement cycle. Here, I'm simply using the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. Each time that the cycle has completed a revolution, the delivery of this safe service should be improved. Underpinning this continuous improvement life cycle is the organisation and its culture, which keeps the wheel spinning. Without this support, improvement of the organisation may not be possible. Safety culture here acts as a foundation. It enables the team to actively engage with the business procedures and processes. They trust that by putting in reports and highlighting the challenges and successes, that this will be actioned and the service will be improved. They are actively inputting and engaging with the management system. The management system is a framework which translates the values of your safety culture into concrete actions. It provides the tools, the processes for identifying your hazards, assessing your risks, and implementing controls to prevent accidents. There is mutual reinforcement here. A positive safety culture encourages active participation in the management system. Employees who value safety are more likely to report hazards, participate in safety training, and follow safety procedures, or notify when procedures are not working. This continued improvement will strengthen both the culture and the system. So, we've talked through what safety culture is and the key elements of a safety culture. Now, I want to discuss why culture is important, highlighting some of the key benefits. It makes good business sense to develop and enhance an organisation's culture, not just from a legal and financial perspective, but also a moral one. By having a culture where hazards and occurrences are reported, the organisation can more effectively manage their risks through assessment and mitigation, making their service safer and more efficient. Again, irrespective of the size or complexity of the organisation, by being able to manage and mitigate your risks will help to drive efficient and safe operations. When employees feel valued and their safety is prioritised, morale and engagement tend to increase. People feel more comfortable raising safety concerns and working together to prevent occurrences. If you have a positive culture within your organisation, people are more engaged, and therefore you could see productivity increase. An accident or incident is expensive, not just financially, but also from a reputational perspective, potentially impacting commercial viability in competitive tenders against others. In addition, those companies with a positive safety culture are also seen as more responsible and could be more attractive to both prospective employees and customers. Within the PDRA application, it is clearly defined that the UAS operator adopts best industry practice to ensure flight operations are conducted as safely as possible through ensuring that all hazards are identified and are mitigated to as low as reasonably practicable. Likewise, the OSC application process, the operator also needs to have conducted a comprehensive risk assessment and ensure that they have processes in place to continuously manage risk. A positive safety culture will help to ensure that organisations are meeting these requirements. So we've considered the theory around safety culture. The next couple of slides is to highlight how safety culture is a focus across many safety critical industries. Companies working within these industries, which include aviation, have a duty of care to their employees and public, and therefore being able to effectively identify, assess, and manage your risks, irrespective of company size, is key. I hope that the following examples I'm using here are not triggering for anyone. These are merely used as an example of accidents that were caused or aggravated by poor safety culture within safety critical industries. The report into the Piper Alpha accident stated that the underlying causes were poor safety management and leadership and management shortcomings. The Clapham rail crash was caused by a signalling failure. The technician responsible for the incorrect wiring had had 1 day off in the preceding 13 weeks. Poor safety practices were identified. The staff were insufficiently trained and experienced, and there were excessive working practices. The report into the Royal Air Force Nimrod crash identified that safety was often considered a tick box exercise and that previous incident and warning signs had been ignored. The Chernobyl nuclear plant had an inherently unsafe design, but the workers and the managers were also influenced by a fear and compliance-driven culture that discouraged from raising concerns or admitting mistakes. The report into the Virgin spaceship crash documented that the safety analysis did not meet the requirements, but they issued a waiver. They didn't consider a human single point of failure, and the pilots had had no recent experience of operating in the conditions that were experienced during the re-entry. There was also leadership and management service delivery pressure. The Chemical Safety Board's final investigation report into the Deepwater Horizon oil spill concluded that BP and Transocean organisational cultures did not promote process safety. Finally, a report commissioned by the Federal Aviation Administration to look at the culture of safety in Boeing in a response to the two 737 MAX 8 crashes in 2018 and 2019, observed that there was a disconnect between Boeing's senior management and other members of the organisation on safety culture. All of these examples from different sectors were caused by systemic organisational failings, and their safety culture performance contributed to the outcome. Whilst these are significant events within large organisations, incidents and serious events can and have happened to smaller or less complex organisations, some within the drone industry already. Lessons should be shared and communicated at industry level to increase awareness, support differing sizes of organisations in their endeavour to operate safely and efficiently. There are other challenges to implementing a safety culture within the drone industry, and some of these may include the perception that, or the reality that there are too many restrictions that are not proportionate to the type of operation that are being conducted. For instance, drones do not carry packs and are and may not carry cargo, and therefore safety doesn't necessarily apply in the same way as the aviation industry. Innovative startups may be focusing on the product or the service rather than the safety of the service that is being delivered. It may be too confusing. There are 14 main reporting bodies that can be used by drone organisations for sharing information and reports. How do you know which one's right for you? Operators also come from a variety of backgrounds, many without previous aviation experience, and therefore integrating good aviation safety practices may be challenging for companies without that focus. A lot of work has been completed over the decades in looking to develop and improve safety culture within industries. The Rail Safety and Standards Boards, for instance, have developed a safety culture toolkit to support those in and out of the industry to help with culture assessment, improvement, and good practice exchange. NHS England have developed a guide on just culture and a safety culture best practice report, which is based on the Safety 2 approach. The Safety 2 approach focuses on what is going well in the system. Finally, the Health and Safety Executive doesn't directly mandate a safety culture in the UK. However, their role is very much intertwined with promoting it, and they have too developed a safety climate tool. Now we move back into the drone industry. So whatever you do, it has to be proportionate to the size and complexity of the organisation, otherwise it wouldn't be manageable. If you are a company with a single employee, you can still develop a positive culture. Consider how many times you report events, near misses or hazards. Have there been times where you've maybe landed outside a designated landing zone or connected with a tree, but there's been no damage, and you thought, oh, it's okay, I won't report that. It's not mandatory. My question to you is, why not? Do you feel that it isn't important, that there's too much paperwork, you could be too busy, or that you would get hassle from the regulator or even your insurer? This data is key to safe and efficient operations, both now and in the future. And by being able to understand what happened, assess why it happened, and look at ways of preventing it from happening again, will help improve your risk picture. For teams that are growing, a positive culture will help maintain the high standard of safety performance as you bring in new members. Culture is learned through demonstrated behaviour. For larger organisations, do you know whether your team report every safety event, hazard, or observation if it's not mandatory? Do you provide feedback to staff on reports that they've taken the time to develop, with the outcomes and what actions have been taken as a result of that report? Are you only seeing the tip of the iceberg in relation to your hazards and near misses? When you bring in more complexity into organisations, accountabilities and responsibilities will need to be clear, and risk management will need to be effective. And we go back to proportionality. It's key. It's crucial that organisations have a framework in place, or the foundations in place, which enables an organisation to establish the processes and awareness as the company expands and/or intends to conduct more complex operations. So how can you develop a positive safety culture? This slide is by no means the answers for all of your safety culture needs. However, there are some practical steps that can be applied to help organisations develop and improve. I would like to share some of these with you now. Proportionate to your organisation. Give yourself the flexibility to adapt if you become more complex and/or employ more people. Leading by example is key. It may be for a small or a non-complex organisation that you just hold yourself accountable for your behaviour and you model good safety practices for your stakeholders. For larger organisations or more complex organisations, safety culture should start at the top. It's up to the senior management to encourage safety programmes. They could walk the walk when it comes to demonstrating positive safety behaviours. By actively demonstrating that safety is a high priority against company objectives, this will help filter through every level of the business. Some quick wins may include demonstrating good safety behaviours by leadership and management, following processes, challenging and questioning processes that maybe are not working, and also talking to staff about reinforcing positive safety behaviours at team meetings. Also, being present on the shop floor may also help. Communication is also important. There should be a formal process, particularly for large organisations, for employees to voice their concerns about safety issues. Not only will companies receive important feedback about what is working and what isn't, but you empower your employees to take responsibility for safety too. Employees should feel that they are able to report issues or concerns without fear of reprisal. A voluntary reporting system could be developed internally as the company grows in size or complexity, but irrespective of size, a feedback mechanism will demonstrate to your employees that you take safety seriously. Having mechanisms in place to share safety critical information that is accessible to all staff, sharing successes and lessons learned internally and potentially within wider industry, you could recognise achievements of employees who improve safety in the business, especially those who contribute to safety improvement. Inclusion. Demonstrate visibility and commitment to safety throughout all areas of the business. There's also a need to have clear lines of accountability and responsibility, which should be filtered throughout the company. Quick wins include defining safety responsibilities and accountabilities and translating them into terms of reference for people that work. Educate and promote safety, and also make sure that the team's contribution to delivering safe service is known. Consider voluntary reporting through established platforms such as Chirp, or you could develop your own. Evolution. As maybe a sole contractor or a small organisation, you could look at ways to continuously improve and learn from your own experience and mistakes. This could be through the way that you review a flight and make changes through your plan, do, review, act cycle. Learning from past mistakes and experiences through sharing information and providing feedback to employees, individuals are encouraged to share information to help their colleagues, and they will be able to better adapt to meet your needs. This is increasingly important for larger and more complex organisations. Quick wins could be actively reviewing your risk assessments, updating and making the necessary changes. You could introduce a confidential reporting scheme within your organisation, although this will take a bit of time. You could have easy reporting methodologies within your organisation, and that we go back to our feedback mechanism to make sure that you're closing the loop on occurrences and the outcomes of any events. A toolkit. Irrespective of the size and complexity of your organisation, employees should have the right policies, procedures and processes, the right tools, equipment and training for the job that they are doing, so they can do their work safely and efficiently. But most importantly, time is needed to develop and enhance a safety culture. By setting proportionate foundations now, you will help your organisation as it grows in size or become more complex. The drone industry is changing rapidly, with innovative technologies emerging, the type of operations being conducted evolving, and new service providers, such as UTMSPs, establishing themselves within the industry. However, with this rapid change comes potential challenges. Drones are becoming increasingly prevalent in our skies, and it is crucial that we design, build, operate, and manage drones and the supporting services with safety as a key priority. By developing and enhancing positive attitudes and behaviours towards safety within organisations that contribute to the aviation ecosystem, this will help to identify, mitigate, and manage all risks that the industry poses to the safety of other airspace users and those stakeholders that are on the ground. By having an engaged safety culture, it will enable the industry to build trust amongst stakeholder groups, which include the public, local authorities, and other airspace users. This will be key for the drone industry to thrive within this ecosystem, help to normalise their presence, and to support the move towards more complex and integrated operations. The key takeaways from today should be that whilst it's not mandatory for some who are within the aviation ecosystem, it makes good business sense. Proportionality is key. You need to not make instilling a positive culture within your company burdensome. Finally, safety culture activities should be considered and future-proofed. You can look at the quick wins and develop them further to meet your needs of your organisation as your business evolves. Whilst this webinar has only scratched the surface of safety culture, I hope that some of the theory, examples within wider sectors, an overview of some of the benefits and the impacts of a safety culture, including some potential wins that can be applied to help you on your journey, has demonstrated the importance of a positive culture to the safe and efficient operation of drones and advanced air mobility within the aviation ecosystem. We now come to the end of the webinar. Thank you very much for listening. I'll now hand you back to Mohammed to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was a very interesting webinar. Let me just have a look to see if any questions. Yes, we have one question that's already come through. Is it of best interest for the UK to comply with EASA stated JARA SOAR practices so there is more of an uniformity in safety culture? A lot of SMEs work with partners across EU, and it's more of a hassle to understand the position of safety practices to be taken to collaborate effectively.
Okay, so in terms of safety culture, so ICAO, the safety management manual, which is .9859, talks about the pillars of a safety management system and safety culture. From that, you've got Annex 19, which also communicates about how the states should transfer this information into their own legislation and regulation. From that, European regulation around safety culture is primarily aimed at more traditional aviation. However, in terms of the SORA practices, when you're conducting your SORA, your risk assessment, it is a risk assessment, but you can still support the practices more broadly with looking at safety, for instance, looking at a safety management system and some of the processes and procedures that could be in place to assist that. In terms of the safety culture specifically, culture, I suppose, culture and processes go hand in hand, but they're not exclusive. So if you do a lot of work within the EU, then have a look at the regulation in terms of safety management. And if you are using risk assessment processes, the actual element of culture around that shouldn't change that much.
Yeah, okay, thank you. The next question that's come in, do you think that drone operators should do more than building and using on a daily basis their operations manual? When should they go beyond and develop other toolkits?
I mean, so obviously this question will depend on the size and complexity of their organization and their operation. Their operations manual will have your risk assessment and your processes and procedures within there. It should also have your safety policy, which talks about how the business will manage and safety, what their priorities are, and the responsibilities. It's on a case-by-case basis. Yes, you can develop a compliance management system, you can develop a safety management system, or depending on how large you are, you might just go straight for a business management system where you then have all of these processes together. But in terms of toolkits, it's proportionality again for this. A company with a single employee, it's not going to benefit them having a unsustainable management system. They need to do it proportionally, and just through demonstrating behaviours and having a review process in place, as your post-flight review of your hazard assessment, if something's happened, and then taking action on it, is you're already doing the right activities. It's about demonstrating the behaviour. If you start to grow, these processes and procedures and potentially toolkits can evolve and adapt with you. It's really easy to think that, oh, it's okay, I'll deal with it when it grows. But if you have lots of people within your company already, it's never too late to start trying to foster a positive culture. What's difficult is trying to change a poor culture when they've been established for years. And this goes back to my argument that I've tried to say throughout the entire webinar, that it's got to be proportionate. What you may be doing is right for now, but without a lot of time and effort, you can put in small steps which may be demonstrating more safety behaviours amongst your staff through talking about it in a team meeting, or if somebody reports something, sharing the lessons learned and providing that feedback mechanism. I don't think that there's a time and a place to develop specific safety culture toolkits, and the organisation will have to be in the right stage to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's great. And that kind of leads on to another question that I would have is, what safety culture improvement actions are good enough if I'm a small company? Where can I start?
So, post-flight reviews, if your company does them, what have you learned and taken away from there? Were there any hazards or observations that didn't cause any occurrence, but could do in a different set of circumstances? Understand, have a look at that and review and develop your risk picture And your plan, do, check, act, your review, your act, and improve your delivery of your safe service. That is something which you should be doing already, but you can maybe take a cautious step to actively do that. If you have more people in your company, then it's sharing lessons learned, from the top down. If you've got a company's, a CEO or the the director that sticks their hand up and says, this happened to me, this almost happened to me, and here's what's happened, here's what I've done about it, and this is my lesson that I've taken away from this. It starts building trust within your small company. It doesn't cost anything to communicate with people. If somebody takes the time to fill out a report, give them feedback on it, and try and those are, I suppose, low kind of low cost, low time and effort and resource to actually start building those foundations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's kind of way to get the low hanging fruit. No, that's great, and thank you so much, Sarah. There's one more question, but I think that's directed at me. Many thanks for the webinar. Will slides be available afterwards? So this will get put up as a recording on the ARPAS YouTube channel and our website. So keep an eye out for that. It should be up sometime this week. And if that's all the questions, should ARPAS have more crash courses on safety?
If you would like more crash courses on safety, then please put this in the feedback. And now with an ARPAS hat on, we will be able to take that away and have a look.
Absolutely, absolutely. That should be quite an interesting project to work on if we have the traction for it. Flexibility and the ability to not undertake a mission feels like a key decision. HOC and culture support this.
Yes, if it, the individual has
How?
to have,
Sorry.
sorry, yeah, the individual will have, should be encouraged to question, and if they feel that something isn't safe, they should be able to challenge that, and that's part of the informed kind of questioning culture. They shouldn't be then blamed for their actions, and it should be a learning activity. If you have some of the tools in place to be able to make those decisions and not get to the point where the operator at the end is challenging whether or not the mission takes place, that should then reduce your likelihood of that happening. But employees should be encouraged to stop. In the helicopter company I worked for, there was a stop work initiative that if anybody felt that something wasn't safe or observed something that wasn't safe, then they could go over to that person and ask them to stop. And then they would look at steps of going back to do that job once the safety potential issues had been resolved.
That's perfect, thank you. And then a follow-on question, how can a SOAR portfolio leverage a safety culture to demonstrate an operator is flying to a target level of safety?
So with a safety culture, you will, so you've done your risk assessment based on this on the SORA, and you've submitted this, has been approved, but it's not a one-time thing, and you do your tactical safety assessment before you operate. One of the things that's really important is to continuously assess and mitigate against your hazards. A positive safety culture will facilitate your staff by putting their hands up when something nearly happened, or this almost happened to me. And it's those third aid reporting that you really want to get to. These are if you look at the example of the iceberg, your occurrence reports may just be what's happened. They're mandatory. But all of these occurrences, hazards, and observations that are still there within your business that you don't know about because you've not been informed of them, And I think that that is how a safety culture, and a positive safety culture, because you can have a safety culture, it could be bad, it could be negligible, but a positive safety culture will help you complete a bigger risk picture. And that is how, with the data you're capturing and assessing, is how you would be able to argue that point.
That's perfect. Thank you. I think that's all the questions that have come in so far. I'll give it a few more moments if anybody's typing anything. Thank you for your learnings. Hope more from ARPAS and Ebeni. Thank you. Well, if that's the case, then I think it's a good time to wrap up. Thank you so much, Sarah, for giving us your time to these very important teachings, I'd say, especially with the onset of BVLOS and the development of the industry. This is definitely something that we all need to keep in mind when kind of moving in that direction. So thank you so much. That is great. So I will now end the recording.